Grandmaster Ulrich has prepared his Teutonic Knights to fend off attacks at the edges of the realm, but this is something different. A great host has crossed the river Vistula, and now over 30,000 men march into the heart of the Teutonic state. The armies of Poland and Lithuania have come to break the power of the Teutonic Knights. The advancing force will burn and plunder the land. There are territorial and political reasons for this war, but the Poles and Lithuanians also seek retribution. The Teutonic Knights are German crusaders who first came to the region nearly 2 centuries ago to vanquish and convert pagan peoples. The Knights soon acquired a certain notoriety. Fellow Christian rulers and church leaders accused them of habitual brutality and a preoccupation with conquest. And enemies of the Knights, pagan and Christian alike, engaged the Teutonic Order in reciprocal, devastating warfare over the course of many years. Whatever the old grievances, the brash Ulrich von Jungingen has failed to resolve the present matter diplomatically. And so he has gathered some 20,000 soldiers to confront the enemy. Though outnumbered, this is a powerful and orderly army. Its finest ranks clad in state-of-the-art armor and mail, and ranged troops armed with crossbows and artillery. Ulrich blocks the enemy advance across the river Drevens and shadows their movements until, at length, the approach. Tens of thousands of armored men gather for one of the largest battles in medieval history, a battle that will alter the fate of the Teutonic Order and shift power in this corner of the continent. The Battle of Grunwald. Knights rode into battle with striking, state-of-the-art gear. And while it's no longer socially acceptable for me to wear medieval great helms around, I might have just solved a massive issue with athletic gear. I like to stay pretty active, but most affordable athletic wear feels thin, restrictive, and not breathable. I guess I just learned to put up with it. Until I was recommended Fabletics, I can really feel the quality of the material. It's mobile for any kind of exercise, while also breathable and sweat-wicking. I appreciate that they also have quarter zips, joggers, and more that work well for outdoor exercise in the cold. Finally, it's pretty cozy to wear if you're lounging or in a festive mood. I've leveled up my wardrobe with Fabletics, and the best way to do the same is to sign up for the Fabletics VIP program. It's 70 to 80% off the entire site at sign up and up to 50% off after that. This fit is normally around $180 and it drops to around $35 when you sign up to be a VIP. And these kinds of deals are on everything. Right now they're giving History Dose viewers a whopping 70 to 80% off your first order when you sign up to be a VIP. Link is in the description. In May of 1409, the revolt begins. Rebels of the region called Samogitiya plunder and torch the hill forts of their Teutonic overlords, killing or capturing those within and stealing horses and livestock. The Teutonic forces retreat, but the war-torn region of Samogitiya remains vital to the Teutonic state, a bridge between the Knights' bases in Prussia and their lands in Livonia to the north. Grandmaster Ulrich will not let it fall, even if peace should turn to open war with his neighbors. For the rebels receive aid and encouragement from across the border. Vytautas, Grand Duke of Lithuania, is sponsoring the rebellion in Samogitiya. Vytautas maintains that Samogitiya is part of the Lithuanian motherland, as it had only been ceded to the Teutonic Order years before in a pragmatic political move. Thus, Grandmaster Ulrich considers that his army must now cross the bogs and forests and strike Lithuania itself. Yet he fears that such a move may provoke Poland. Lithuania and Poland are bound by a personal union, as Grand Duke Vytautas rules Lithuania as the regent for his cousin and King of Poland, Władysław II Jagiełło. The Grandmaster announces his plans to invade Lithuania and warns King Jagiełło not to interfere. As an envoy of Poland, the Archbishop of Gniezno replies to Ulrich, "Master, stop trying to frighten us by declaring war on Lithuania, because if you decide on that, be sure that while you are invading Lithuania, our king will invade your lands. The enemies of Lithuania are our enemies, and if you attack them, we will take up arms against you." The Polish annals relate that Ulrich appears delighted and replies, "I am grateful, worshipful father, for your not disguising your king's intentions. Now, knowing how he will act, I shall attack the head rather than the limb." The Teutonic Knights invade Poland at once, swarming lands the order previously sold to the king. The invading army bombards several castles and slaughters garrisons of Polish knights. A Polish account claims that the order also moves to devastate nearby towns, where they slay even the girls and women. The furious Poles mount a counterattack. They besiege a western fortress taken by the order and kill the leaders within. But neither army is prepared to sustain this war, and so a truce is brokered by the King of Bohemia on October 8th. It is thus agreed that in 8 months' time, on June 24th of 1410, the peace will expire. As the ground hardens and the woods turn white, the lords in their halls recruit subjects, allies, and mercenaries for the coming war. Lithuania is at this time the largest state in Europe, and alongside Poland they can marshal many troops, but the Teutonic Order wields considerable influence as well. Many of the highest-ranking knights are German aristocrats of wealthy and accomplished lineages. The Germans who join the order believe themselves to be inheriting a long and righteous struggle, a struggle that had not begun here but in the Holy Land 2 centuries ago. In the 1190s, not long after the Third Crusade, a hospital order that tended to German crusaders gained the status of a religious military order, alongside the Knights Templar and Hospitaller. The men of this Teutonic order were tireless knights who escorted pilgrims, defended towns, and fought Muslim enemies. As devout friars, each knight took vows of chastity and poverty. Yet Muslim armies had largely checked the advance of the Crusaders in the Holy Land, and so the Teutonic Order shifted its gaze to perceived threats to Christendom elsewhere. The knights journeyed to Transylvania, where they powerfully fought back the pagan Cuman tribes on behalf of the Hungarian king, only for the king to forcefully expel them when the Teutonic Order asserted autonomy in the lands it had gained. The order desired a permanent state, and Poland, which had been Christian for centuries, required aid in facing the pagan raiders of Prussia. And so there the knights gained a foothold of territory, from which they waged the brutal Baltic Crusades. The knights incessantly made war in the marshlands and the dark woods. A chronicle recorded, "They complained little, for they labored in God's name, steadfastly propagating the true faith. They kept watch, fasted, and seldom rested. Their sufferings were great." As the knights expanded their dominion, they turned on their former Polish allies in 1308. While intervening in an internal conflict involving the King of Poland, the knights stormed the city of Danzig, overwhelmed the defenders, then proceeded to burn the town. Witnesses claim that they butchered so many civilians that dogs gathered to drink the pools of blood. Despite accusations of massacre by the Pope, the Teutonic Knights annexed the town and gained the surrounding region, robbing Poland of its Baltic coast. Yet the order found its true nemesis in Lithuania, the last and most powerful of the pagan states. Its tribes were not fractured like others, but organized under a central Lithuanian state. Their warrior nobility derived power by raiding and enslaving enemies, using light cavalry tactics influenced by the neighboring Tatars of the steppe. Although the Teutonic Order fought them under the stated mission of protecting Christian converts and missionaries and purging practices deemed sinful, many decried the brutality of their campaigns. Indeed, the 13th century Livonian rhymed chronicle, which hails the knights as warriors of God, describes their actions frankly. The knights moved into the land of Nalson, where they killed the people with a free hand. They slaughtered them like cattle, men, women, and children, and few of them were spared. The well-ordered army moved through Nalson toward Lithuania and destroyed by the torch everything around them. Then they rode toward Samagitia, where the might of the Christians and the fierce fighting caused much sorrow. While missionaries did find many converts in Lithuania, it was the opinion of the friar and polymath Roger Bacon that the Teutonic Knights impeded this effort and stained the reputation of the church. The Knights much disturb the conversion of infidels because of the wars which they are always starting, and because of the fact that they wish to dominate them absolutely, for there is no doubt that all the pagans beyond Germany would have been converted long ago if it was not for the violence of the brothers of the Teutonic Order. The Teutonic Order continued to lead bloody and lucrative raids into Lithuania each winter and summer, even after JERYCHO abolished the old gods and widely baptized the people of Lithuania. As the Lithuanian Grand Duke, JERYCHO had been pagan himself until 1386, when he converted to Christianity and married the young female ruler of Poland, Jadwiga. Thus he also became the King of Poland. But his rival cousin Vytautas soon challenged his rule over Lithuania, and the two fought a terrible war for years until they reached the present arrangement. JERYCHO would remain King of Poland, and Vytautas would govern Lithuania as his regent, with de facto independence. Grandmaster Ulrich doubts that the alliance between the old rivals JERYCHO and Vytautas will hold, as the warmth of the summer of 1410 now signals the end of the truce. The master further doubts that the Poles and Lithuanians will risk a large invasion of his well-fortified state. Yet by the 1st of July, the Poles have completed a nearly 2,000-foot pontoon bridge, over which King JERYCHO moves his massive Polish army across the river Vistula, the cavalry, cannons, and all. The Poles join allies, mercenaries, in the Lithuanian army under Vytautas, and together this mighty force of some 30,000 men invades the Teutonic realm. A wake of flame and ruin trails the marauding army as they march toward the Teutonic headquarters of Marienburg. The Grandmaster expects that his enemies will attempt to cross the river Drevens at the fords near the fortress of Kawernik, and so he has hurriedly led his army of 20,000 men east to fortify and hold the crossing. And days later, as predicted, the Polish-Lithuanian army arrives. Near the hilltop castle of Kawernik, the two armies come to a standoff. The Teutonic army is well equipped to hold the river. The great helms of centuries past are no longer worn on battlefields, but have given way to varieties of bassinets and kettle hats. The basic body armor of troops consists of mail and a breastplate or coat of plates, with finer troops and knights especially adding more elements of plate armor on the limbs and elsewhere. The close-range troops carry lances and polearms, as well as swords and other sidearms. Led by several hundred Teutonic Knights, this army largely consists of local cavalry and infantry, visiting knights and skilled mercenaries. But critically, Ulrich lacks knights from the Livonian branch of the Teutonic Order, who secretly agreed to a peace deal with Lithuania. The Grandmaster nevertheless shows no fear of the invading army, remarking, "In the Lithuanian army you will find more men fit to wield a spoon than a sword." Although less trained and organized than the Teutonic army, the cavalry-heavy Allied army is eager and well-armed. The best Polish and Lithuanian knights possess much of the same weaponry and armor as the German knights, though the Eastern-influenced Lithuanians often ride in nimbler, lighter gear. In their ranks are men from across the region, including men of the Rus principalities, some Samogitians, and even nomads of the steppe. A large contingent of Tatar horse archers of the Mongol-established Golden Horde Khanate rides under the command of the exiled Muslim prince Jalal al-Din. Son of the late Khan and a distant descendant of Genghis Khan, Jalal al-Din has allied with Vytautas in exchange for the support of Lithuania in reclaiming his father's throne. Medieval chronicles also record the presence of Czech warriors, including Jan Sokol and the legendary Jan Žižka, the brilliant warrior and future hero of the Hussite Wars. Despite the strength of his army, King JERYCHO will not risk a battle for the river. He resolves to go around it to the east. The Polish-Lithuanian army breaks camp, and on July 13th the force reaches Gilgenberg, a town and castle on a strip of land between two lakes. The Poles and Lithuanians scale the walls with siege ladders and pour in. Even the Polish annals cannot deny the hellish scene that the army perpetrates. Fire is set to the town, and many who had sought refuge in the churches are killed in the blaze. None escapes death or captivity, except the few who flee across the lake in boats. The source claims this was done in retaliation for the massacres committed by the Teutonic Order in Poland the year before. Word of the attack on Gilgenberg reaches the Grand Master, who stirs his men to make haste and take vengeance against the Polish-Lithuanian army. The Teutonic army arrives in the vicinity of the villages of Grunwald and Tannenberg, and not far to the south, the Allied army approaches. On the morning of July 15th, King Jagiełło prays for the aid of the Lord, hearing 2 masses even as the armies array for battle. The Poles stand on the left wing and the Lithuanians on the right. To their north, the Teutonic army grows restless. 2 heralds from the Grand Master arrive, mockingly offering the Polish king 2 swords with the message, "Your Majesty, the Grand Master of the Prussian Knights Ulrich sends you and Vytautas these 2 swords, so that you may fight him and his army without further procrastination, or hiding in woods and thickets to deceive him, but to fight him now." The king replies that he has no want of swords, but he will accept them, that they may serve the will of God in battle. The Teutonic army, wasting in the sun, further pulls back their lines, retreating from their defensive ditches to entice the enemy. King Jagiełło, on the back of a powerful chestnut horse with a white blaze, beholds his men at the hour of death, and then puts on his helm and orders the bugles to be sounded throughout the army, whereupon the entire army sings the country's anthem, Bogurodzica, Mother of God. The first to charge are the Lithuanians and Tatars with furious battle cries. The Teutonic artillery manages only 2 salvos before the forces collide. The Polish annals relate, "The noise of lances breaking and swords striking armor is as loud as a rock fall. Armor crumples and swords thrust at faces. Their lances broken, knights fight hand to hand, pressed close by their mounts. They can fight only with swords or battle axes." Accounts differ on many details of the battle, but it seems, supported by the Polish on the left, the Lithuanians contend with the knights for over an hour. Then the tide shifts. The Lithuanians and Tatars fall back and retreat, and much of the enemy abandons their positions to give them chase. The unflagging Vytautas remains, and with troops from Smolensk, he bolsters the Polish right as the Teutonic army clashes with them. A light rain covers the armies and the earth, and many men on both sides fall as the strong Polish lines hold position. With his forces growing tired, Grand Master Ulrich decides to join the fray. With a reserve of some 1,500 men, he rides across the battlefield and boldly charges the Polish right flank. The Poles, meanwhile, send forth the last of their reserves for a fight to the death. Although the banner of the Polish king has been lowered to conceal his position, one German knight cuts through the line and charges Jagiełło. The king's secretary, a young priest called Olesnicki, then grabs a broken spear, knocks down the German knight, and saves his king. The melee wears on, and it's likely at this point that the Lithuanians and Tatars ride back in a rousing return to the battle. Having ambushed many of their pursuers, these forces may have been deliberately executing the feigned retreat tactic characteristic of the Tatars and Mongols. At any rate, the Teutonic Knights begin to crumble. Surrounded and cut down as they fall back, the mass of Poles and Lithuanians rides over the damp and corpse-strewn battlefield, killing and capturing the fleeing Teutonic forces and plundering their camps with jubilance. Teutonic stragglers flee north into the wild, where some drown in the waters as bands of Allied troops hunt them for miles. The Polish annals record, after nightfall it begins to rain and continues to do so all night, throughout which odd groups keep coming to camp with more prisoners and plunder. Many of the knights and troops are captured to be ransomed, others are executed, and perhaps 8,000 more lie cold on the battlefield. The Allied army may have lost a similar number of men. Of the 270 full brothers of the Teutonic Order who came to Grunwald, up to 211 have perished, including several commanders, the treasurer, and the Grand Master Ulrich von Jungingen himself. In the morning, the victorious Poles and Lithuanians survey the carnage. It's recorded, "Masses are said for the souls of the dead. All round the camp are the captured enemy standards and banners. They're fluttering quite loud in the light breeze." King Jagiello has the bodies of the Grand Master and his officers honorably covered in fine cloth, to be later transported to Marienburg for a proper burial. And Marienburg remains his aim. The exhausted Polish-Lithuanian army moves through Prussia at a measured pace, securing the ready submission of castles and towns. Meanwhile, a Teutonic commander, Heinrich von Plauen, stationed in the west, hastens to Marienburg with 3,000 men and assumes control before the Allied army arrives on July 25th. The walls and garrison of Marienburg hold strong under the siege, which lasts for nearly 2 months. Facing the prospect of Livonians and Hungarians coming to the aid of the order, King Jagiello departs with the last of his army. Under von Plauen, the Teutonic Order swiftly regains most of the territory lost, but Jagiello and the Poles win another battle in October. The costly war ends with the Peace of Thorn in February of 1411, under which the Dobrzyn region is returned to Poland, and the order renounces its claims to Samogitia for the lifetimes of Jagiello and Vytautas. In the summer, Grand Duke Vytautas and King Jagiello lead a large victory parade and triumphantly display the captured Teutonic standards in the cathedrals of Lithuania and Poland. They did not break the Teutonic Order at Grunwald, and more wars will be fought, but the Polish and Lithuanian victors have decimated the leadership and army of the Teutonic Order, which sinks into debt as it pays tens of thousands of pounds of silver in war reparations and hires mercenaries to supplement its forces. The order further comes under increased scrutiny from church leaders, as Polish clerics claim that the German knights have throughout their history violated canonical and natural law, killing and stealing in the heathen lands under the pretext of conversion. The Teutonic Knights had thrived as relentless warriors in a brutal medieval age. In the aftermath of the Battle of Grunwald, they faced a gradual decline. The once fearsome crusading order will never again reach the same heights of power. This Teutonic Knight artwork was manually made by the accomplished artist Joe Feely, who is also my brother. Joe used a stylus on a tablet to make all of the original art in this video, basing it off a 149-page document I filled with research and references on everything from the architecture of 15th century Gilgenberg to the Polish flags present at the Battle of Grunwald. We are the entire two-man team behind History Dose because we love learning and telling history accurately through art and storytelling. If you want to support this kind of content, just toss us a $1 or more at the Patreon link in the description. Thanks.